Our sun moved into Leo over the weekend. We are in Leo season, my friend. We've got Venus moving into Cancer. We've got our new moon in Leo and so much more happening in this week's Sidereal Astrology Forecast. Stay tuned to learn all about what I just said and more as we move through our forecast today. Welcome back, my friend, to The Cosmic Mystic, where we blend strategy and soul work to help healers, coaches, conscious leaders do that deeper soul aligned work so that they can complete, fulfill, step into their soul's mission. I am Danny C. Muniz, the creator of the Inner Work Alchemy Method. This is a 5-stage journey to soul-led sovereignty where deep healing meets embodied leadership, my friend. I love to help high achieving, introverted spiritual women reclaim their power, embody their truth, and lead from within. So I here on the channel, I hear that's great. That's great proper English there, Danny. Each video here on this channel is here to help you navigate the external forces as well as the internal forces, the energy, the vibrations that we are seeing in our outer world, in our inner world, and how those are all reflecting, matching, working together. Because, my friend, they are. All right, so let's dive in to this week's State of the Planets. But before we do that, if you are new here, keep in mind that we have the podcast and the YouTube channel. So I always like to say this because you never know where you're coming in from, where you're listening. And I want to make sure you know that there are both channels. So first off, if you're catching me on YouTube, you'll be able to see all of the charts that I'm about to pull up for this week's forecast. And also keep in mind, this is this week's forecast from August 18th through the 24th. The full kind of overview video you can also find on the channel and on the podcast where I talked about everything that is kind of happening, just like as an overview, the major transits. These week to week ones, we really just get into the nitty gritty of this particular week. So we're going to talk about that here. Also on the YouTube channel, you're going to find so much more on here. Our Rise and Align series, some somatic breathwork sessions, hypnosis sessions, meditations, some teachings that I've done over the years. I've had the channel for a long time, and so it's navigated and moved into a lot of different directions, but at the core, really helping you understand who you are and really reclaim your power. So that's the YouTube channel. The podcast also has these Sidereal Astrology Forecasts. If you just want to hear the forecast or revisit the information, then you can listen on your go. I know people tell me they listen at the gym, they listen while they're doing housework, folding their laundry, they're listening on their walks. So I love to hear how you're tuning in on the podcast or even on the channel. Let me know. And then finally, also on the podcast, we've got also our Rise and Align series, and it's just the teaching on the channel. We've got the breathworks on the YouTube channel, and then we've got interviews on the podcast with other spiritual entrepreneurs, their journey into spirituality and building businesses. And so if you want to be inspired, come on over there as well and listen in. And if you want to see the transit charts, come on over from the podcast and see us on the YouTube channel. All right, I think I covered everything. Let's dive into our state of the planet for this week. Basically, where is everybody hanging out as we kick off this week? So first off, you'll see that our Leo, our sun is in Leo 1 degrees as we kick off this week, meaning Leo has just begun. Leo season has just begun. I talked all about the Leo energy, and we'll talk more about the Leo energy today because of that new moon in Leo. But Leo season is here and it's very fiery, right? It's a fire element. And so there's a lot going on. So we've got the sun in Leo. We've got Mercury over here out of retrograde. Mercury moved out of retrograde last week. You can learn more about the post shadow period in last week's video where I talked about what that means and how to navigate that. But we've got Mercury now at 13 degrees Cancer. We've got Venus over here at 27 degrees Gemini. Venus will be moving into Cancer and come up against Mercury later on in the week. We've got Jupiter in Gemini at 21 degrees. Our moon kicks off this week in Gemini, so lots of social energy, lots of mental activity. So if you're having all of the thoughts, that is why, my friend. We've got Uranus in Taurus, we've got Chiron in Aries, Neptune and Saturn both in Pisces. You'll see that they are conjunct 6 degrees and 7 degrees. They still are conjunct. So we still got that going on. We've got North Node in Aquarius. We've got Pluto over here, right on that line there, right on the IC, but that is Capricorn. And then we've got Mars over here in Virgo. And we've got South Node in Leo. All right, so let's look at a couple of things that we have going on. Now, first off, I want you to know that we talked about these two last week, so I'm not going to get into any details here, but we do still have these two aspects that we saw last week come in, Uranus over the weekend and the Chiron earlier in the week. But this is both of these are still here and will be here through this entire week. We'll see them fall off next week, but we've still got a lot of that tension, unexpected things happening. So if you want to learn more about these guys, but just keep in mind that things are shifting, things are changing. There's some unexpectedness potentially, because Uranus loves to stir things up. All right, let's dive in though to one of the main things that I want to talk about in this particular episode is the new moon in Leo. So we have our new moon in Leo on the 23rd. So over here on Saturday, and I'm going to pull it up. It's actually going to be overnight. So we're going to see it Friday night into Saturday. So you can technically say, especially if you are on the West Coast, it will happen on Friday. Technically, it is in most of the country. It is in on Saturday, early Saturday morning, but it will basically happen overnight. So if you're looking to do that new moon intention, you're going to want to do it either Friday night or Saturday, okay? Saturday night. The latest that I would still do it would be Sunday, usually a couple of days before, a couple of days after. So if you want to do it Thursday, you can do it Thursday too, but just within that time frame. Usually to get the most potent energy, Friday would be your best bet. All right, so we have a couple of things that are happening with this particular new moon that you can see here. First off, it is in Leo. It is at 6 degrees. This is newer energy to keep in mind, newer energy. And we've got the two aspects here. So first off, we've got the square over here to Uranus, and then we've got the trine with Chiron. So the way that I'm really feeling into this new moon is Leo carries really creative energy, playful energy, leadership energy. It just has this really big energy around it. And there is, because we've got the Uranus energy shifting things up, changing things up, bringing a twist to things. And we've got that Chiron energy, which is more of that healing and embodiment and kind of like allowing ourselves to be the empowered healer, right? The taking our wounds and having them be a very empowered place for us. This is really bringing some creative breakthrough energy with just this healing little vibe in here is really what I feel. So square to Uranus, Danielle, get her word straight. Yes, the square to Uranus brings a revolutionary, creative, impulses, just excitement, new things, the need to break free from some of those outdated ways of doing things, of thinking, of being. It's just wanting to shift things up here. So maybe if we're looking at a new moon in our personal life, like the arena of our personal life, and setting an intention maybe around speaking up, right? Being seen for who we are in our families, in our friendships, right? Maybe we're ready to step into a deeper or bigger role than, or even work, right? If you still work in a 9 to 5, that kind of idea. you can think of this as, what are the new ways that I can come about this, right? I've been doing this, and I said this last week in our forecast, but it's that idea of like, I've been doing the same thing over and over. I'm going to get the same result. If I want something different, I have to do something different, right? That's the idea of insanity, right? If we keep doing the same thing over, we're going to get the same result. So if we look at this Uranus energy here, it wants us to try something different. If we're looking at it from a business standpoint, maybe you have been doing a certain marketing campaign, or you've been your visibility, right? Maybe you've been doing the same talk over and over again, and it's not converting as well as you would like, or the same webinar, or you've been going to the same networking events and there's nothing's converting. It's time to do something different, right? It might not be the networking event. Maybe it's how you're showing up at that networking event, or maybe it is the networking event, right? And so it's like making a shift in something. We don't want to throw away the whole marketing campaign. Maybe we look at some metrics and say, okay, where are people falling off? Where are people not, following through on our emails? Like, do they get to the third email and then they don't open the rest, right? Now we've got 20 emails that maybe we need to rethink. Maybe there was something that was happening with YouTube videos. It's one of the things that I look at. I look at like watch time, like where do you guys fall off on the videos? So I know that like, oh, you guys don't care about this now. I've said this and you're done, right? Looking at that watch time of when things fall off and how I can shift my own videos so that you guys want to stay longer or watch the entire thing, right? Stay till the end, because I'm going to talk about Venus in Cancer. There you go. Let me see if that helps. All right, moving on to this other aspect. So we talked about the Uranus kind of bringing in that kind of shifting things, expressing ourselves in a different way, or showing up in a different way, or trying something new. Chiron, on the other hand, is the opportunity for us around our personal power. Now, I say personal power because we are talking about Leo. We are talking about a new moon, which is our sun and moon together. And so it's more of this personal power type energy. So how can this wounded healer energy meet this creative revolutionary moment? Like, how can that wounded healer, right? The person who, the version of you who has gone through what you've gone through, who is now in a different state and now is more empowered. Now, how can you take that and be creative in how you create your next evolution or revolution, so to speak, and the things that you are moving forward in and doing? So some of the things that we're kind of seeing with this, the themes that I would say that I'm really seeing, is this tension between your desire to shine authentically, and not say that word, and your need to break free from the conventional approaches to success. This is the idea of, and I've talked about this a couple of times already, of, what does success mean to you? Not what success means to other people, right? For those of us that were in the corporate world, there was a certain performance or production that we needed to put out in order to be successful, right? If we got to that end of the year review and it's like, what were your metrics, right? And you got to look at that. Well, what does that look like if you're in the entrepreneurial space now, or you're starting your journey in entrepreneurship? What does that look like for you now, right? Success might not be in your production. It might be in the way that you're able to live your life a little bit more freely. That is one of the things that is a measure for me in my success, is what am I able to do, right? On my days, like, man, I feel so successful sometimes because there are days where I might not be feeling my best, or I just don't feel like maybe working, or I'm going to work my calendar a little bit differently, and I'm going to take days off randomly in the middle of the week, or I'm going to take a morning off or an afternoon off, maybe have an early Friday because I want to, right? Or a late Monday because I want to, because I feel like it. That to me is a huge success. And the fact that I'm able to do that, the fact that I'm able to create my own income, right? I don't have a marker, right, so to speak, of like a limit, a ceiling of how much money I can make in my business. That number is infinite, right? It depends on the things that I am doing to create that, yes, but that potential, like, not like in a corporate world where you're limited in the amount, depending on what your role is and how much they're willing to pay for that role. Trust me, I understand. I got to a point and I was like, oh, that's all I can make. Okay, maybe it's time to rethink something, right? Now, like, success to me is I get to create my own money. Like, I get to create my own money. Isn't that amazing? Okay, moving on. So some other things is there are some opportunities during this new moon cycle, again, to revisit. Yeah, I say this, I feel like I've broken records. I say this all the time, but to revisit some past wounds. And I'm going to say specifically around creativity, visibility, and leadership. Being able to see yourself as you are now, not the version of you from last year, from 6 months ago, from 5 years ago, from 20 years ago. I'm talking the version of you now, and really love and adore that version of you. So there's some really good healing opportunities around these wounds. Like, I didn't have caffeine. I don't know what it is, but like my mind's going a mile a minute. All right, next up, we've got people pleasing is in here as well. This is a big one. A big theme that could be coming through is people pleasing. You're like, I'm done. I'm done with people pleasing. I'm done with playing small. I talked about this with the Leo season energy is and the Leo season podcast. So make sure you listen to the Leo season podcast episode where I talked all about Leo energy, how to use it in your personal growth, self-awareness area of life, and also in your business, how the things that you can focus on in your business as well. But coming back to this people pleasing idea and playing small, Leo has three things that is important to it. It wants to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. And I want you to think about that for yourself. How are you being seen? How are you being heard? And how are you being understood? Like, I want you to allow yourself to see, am I people pleasing because I'm trying to be seen, I'm trying to be heard, I'm trying for people to understand me? Or is it the opposite? I don't want people to see me, I don't want people to hear me. I mean, that was me for a while. Like, there was a point where I didn't want people to see me, I didn't want people to hear me, and so I kept, like, I said things, but I kept myself like kind of in the background or kind of quiet, right? I would never like speak up at meetings. It was just like, whatever you guys said, okay, cool. I'd have my thoughts, but I wouldn't verbally express them. And so it was kind of like keeping the peace kind of energy, right? It's how I grew up. I was very much a keep the peace kind of person. And yeah, that's not, that wasn't good for me, right? That wasn't good for me. It might have been good maybe for other people, but it definitely wasn't good for me. All right, so some things that you can do with this new moon, some for your self mastery kind of area, is visibility. And I also see how this could also be business, but this is on that idea of being criticized, that idea of being rejected, and allowing yourself to really express yourself. So maybe there is an intention around being able to fully express myself, fully show up in my authenticity. And there's a Rise and Align episode coming up that is all about authenticity and just my thoughts on authenticity and how you can be more authentic, or how you are already authentic. Because I think a lot of us think we need to be more authentic. Actually, not the case, but we'll talk about that in that episode. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you follow that particular playlist. Okay, some other things is leadership. So because Leo is all about leadership, right? Leo's learning how to be the leader. That would be another really good intention to set during this time, is something around leadership. So maybe exploring how past experience, maybe you were dismissed, maybe you were overlooked, maybe it was like a promotion in some way, shape, or form that you got looked over, right? Is that still hanging out? Is that still hanging out in your field, right? Because that part of you is, your energy is drained over there, and you might not be stepping up in your business. If that, even if that happened in your corporate world, it still is affecting your energy here. So I want you to consider that, maybe looking at that. Or maybe you were criticized, right, for stepping up as a leader, right? I like to relate things to the shows that I'm watching. I'm currently watching Survivor on um, you know, about half, well, a little bit over halfway now. We're in 33 or something. I can't remember, but we're moving into the 30s, early 30s seasons in Survivor. And, if you look at that, if you've watched that show, let me know if you've watched that show. If you like that show, I'm loving it for a whole multitude of reasons. I should probably do a whole episode around Survivor and my thoughts on Survivor. One of the things that's really interesting is like nobody wanted, especially in the early seasons, nobody wanted to step up as leader because as soon as you stepped up as leader, you became the target. And I immediately, as I'm watching this, I'm like, man, all those wounds that people are creating right here in this environment right now, because those that did step up into the leadership role and got booted out, right, got voted off the island, they're holding that if they have not worked through that and allowed themselves to release that idea and that identity. So, my friend, if there, even if it's something really small, like my friend, you could still be connected to that, and your energy could be definitely kind of like leaking, so to speak. All right, let's kind of talk a little bit about from a business intention. So if you'd like to set a business intention for this new moon, which I'd highly, highly, highly recommend, it might be something through your signature methodology, right? Leo is all about its uniqueness and the way that it stands out. And so, what is your signature methodology? What is your signature way of doing something? Or what is unique and special about your brand, right? If you're more of a product based business, what does that look like? How is your brand unique and different? Or, what is that mission behind it, right? Like Tom's Shoes isn't different from much different, I should say, from other shoes, right? But their branding and their mission is what's very different than some of the other companies out there, which is why when they came out, they just like blew up because of their mission. Their mission was unique. So you can look at it from that standpoint. But if you're in a service-based business, your program, your process, the way in which you do your thing, it's unique to you, my friend. I am an astrologer. I am an Akashic Records reader. I am an NLP, master NLP practitioner. I am a somatic breathwork practitioner. I mean, mindfulness teacher, meditation teacher. I mean, all these things that I am very different, for one, because of all of those modalities that I have that I can use together, but also in the way in which I do it, right? You watch these videos because you like the way that I share about these particular transits, right? If you didn't, you probably wouldn't be watching my channel, right? If you watch the Rise and Align series, you like the way that I share the information, or you like the way that I do that daily somatic breath work. And so that is why you're here. My way of doing things isn't necessarily, I want to say this may be clear, different. It's not necessarily different. I'm sharing about what transits are happening. There's a zillion astrologers out there that can do the same exact thing. You could look at your chart and see all of that information, right? If you took a couple of classes, the way that I interpret it, the way that I talk about it is different than other people. The same way that I do my somatic breathwork. I started calling them somatic healing sessions because I do use the Akashic records. And so there is this healing that comes through in those that when I didn't use it, it was completely different. The way in which the process, right, the format that I learned, the structure of the breath work is still the same idea. The way in which I go about doing it is completely different, right? Opening circle, right? There's people that open circle or that host circles. My circles have their own unique spin on them. When I used to hold the new moon intention circles in person, it was the same. They're slightly different. I would hear all the time, your new moon circles are so different than other ones that I've been to. It's because it was my unique way of doing it, right? Or the way that I chose to do it. So there's a uniqueness about you. So you can set an intention, maybe if you don't know what yours is, to uncover what yours is, or to really like hone that in and solidify it and feel really confident about sharing that with other people. That's why at the beginning of all of these videos, I say the creator of the inner alchemy method. a 5 stage journey. You probably heard me say that if you watch these videos, because that is my methodology. That is how I do my healing work, is through that process. All right. The other thing that I'm going to say is content, creating content and creating fun, easy content, making that process really creative and fun. Leo loves things to be fun, creative. They do not like the main mundane. That is not their style. That is not their flow. So how can you channel that energy with this new moon to absolutely make it creative, make it more fun, make it enjoyable, playful? Now, playful doesn't have to mean dancing. I think a lot of people sometimes think that. It doesn't have to be that. I have danced a couple on mine, but that's my personality. I love to dance. I don't do a lot of, how do I say this? Like, oh, I did a couple of, I might bring those back because I really did love creating them. I love 90s music. My high school years were in the early 90s. And so I definitely love 90s music, right? And one of the things that I liked to do was take some of those songs that were very popular during the 90s and see how they were empowered, how they empowered us, how they were affirmations, how they allowed us to feel really empowered in who we are, especially as women, right? So I loved to play those and look dance to them and just kind of have that fun feeling around 90s music that really was bringing this message in that helped solidify a lot of things for me in those, younger years of mine. So just something like that, like something that's unique to you, that's creative for you, that is playful for you, not like everybody else is doing. You don't have to be the comedian, you don't have to be the jokester, you don't have to do the dancing or have the funny things if that's not who you are. I want you to be you. I want you to be your unique playfulness, your unique expression. Okay, my friend? All right, let's get off of this new moon and let's move on, because there are a couple more things I do want to talk about. And this video is going to get very long if I keep talking about that. Okay, moving on. Let's go over to Mars, because there's one thing I do want to talk about Mars that is coming in here on the 22nd. So let's go back. It starts right here, and this is the square over here to Jupiter. Now, we've had the sextile with Mercury for a bit, and we'll see that for a little bit longer, but we've got this right here. That is the square to Jupiter. So Mars being our willpower, our drive, our motivation, and Jupiter being that energy of expansion and growth. And we talked about this Jupiter energy with Venus not too long ago, right? If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about it and how wherever Jupiter is, especially in a conjunction, it's going to expand things. Now, with the square, though, it's not a conjunction, so it's different energy. A square is a little bit more of tense energy. And so this is bringing like the desire, the need to start something new, to start a new project, to start a new initiative, to do something new, to take bigger risk, like large scale, like a big risk. Like I'm going to go for that ask that I never would have even thought to ask. Like I'm going to do that, right? The other thing is that we're bringing a little bit more forethought and strategy. Jupiter is more of a visionary. It sees more of the big picture, and Mars is more of the executor. So with these two connected, it's like, okay, we're not just going to be down in the weeds doing the thing. Like we're able to put some forethought, we're able to put some strategy here. So if you've been looking like, oh, I can't figure out what a good strategy, how to be more strategic in the things that I'm doing, whatever it might be, whether that's in a relationship that you're building in your business, like a marketing campaign, or how you're attracting new clients, like whatever that strategy might be. When I say strategy, it's like the way in which you do something, right? And being strategic about it, meaning there's an end goal, right? We're not just doing things to do things. We want to make sure that we're being strategic about how we approach things. I do this a lot. And I say this because I do this a lot with my clients who are struggling in, maybe they have a particular situation with a family member or a friend. And I always ask, like, do you want to continue this relationship with this person? Like, is this somebody you want in your life? Because if it's somebody you want in your life, the way in which we're going to approach this, the strategy that we're going to put behind this is going to be different than if you don't want to be friends with this person. It's a completely different strategy, right? I actually did this with one of my younger clients. I'm blessed to work with some really amazing 20-year-olds and or ladies who are in their 20s, let's say. And she recently had an encounter with a guy, and it was like she's wanting to ghost them. And so we talked through that, and based on what she wants and where she's headed and what she's concerned about, right? So there's strategies for everything, my friend. So I just wanted to say that because sometimes I think strategy can get a bad rap. Let me see, what was we're talking about Mars. Okay. choose your fights carefully, though, is what I would say, because there's a lot of hot energy here with Mars, and because of the Jupiter, that we could be getting into fights maybe we shouldn't be getting into, these little bickering things that don't really need our time and attention. I just want you to be mindful of that as well. All right, let's dive into the last planet I want to talk about, which is Venus. So let me share my screen again and bring you over here to Venus. So Venus moves into Cancer on the 20th. Now, Venus rules over our relationships, rules over money, rules over beauty, love. And so anything that is in that realm, which there's a lot in that realm, Venus is rules over. So if we look at this energy right here, so she's going to move into Cancer late afternoon or early afternoon, I'm sorry, on the 20th. For those of you watching, there she is, 3:05 p.m. Central Time. Now, Venus in Cancer, so Venus was just in Leo. I'm sorry, Leo was just in Gemini. God dang it. Leo was just in Gemini. My mind. Um, and in Gemini, she's very social, very active, very, very much wanting to like hang out and have fun, and this like wanting to learn things and just kind of like dive into things, right? Now, when she moves into Cancer, that energy shifts completely. First off, we go from an air sign to a water sign, to a water element. And water element is more emotional element. So right off the bat, I'm going to say there's going to be a lot of emotion coming in, a lot of nostalgia coming in, because Venus in Cancer, can't want you to think about this. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon rules over the emotions. It rules over the fourth house in our natal charts, and the fourth house is home, family. Right off the bat, like our ancestors, our female relationships, our um our traditions, the roots that we have. So if you start to think about that, I said beauty, romance, like our relationships, love, money, these things are moving into an emotional space where we might have been learning about money, let's say in Gemini season. In Cancer season, it's like we're getting emotional about money, right? Whether we're attracting money to us or whether we're fighting with money and pushing money away, right? Whether we're repelling money. There's a shift in energy. Now, good thing is this is an opportunity for us to kind of look at some of the ancestral patterns, some of our, our lineage where in which we've worked with money, our patterns, our ancestral patterns that maybe we have had in relationships, whether that is like your intimate partner or just friendships in general. My parents, always had like a lot of, not a lot of friends, but they had like, couple friends that they hung out with a lot. And I saw that. And that was very much they had very traditional things that they would do with them often, right? Like trips and hanging out on Friday nights or Saturday nights. There was like this very traditional thing that I remember growing up with that kind of framed how I saw friendships and couple friendships, right? So those kind of things. Now, if I had a bad experience with that, then that would be something that I can work on during this season. So there's a heightened sensitivity, a lot of vulnerability here. So opening your heart, healing the heart. You know, if you've had some struggles in that area, this is another really beautiful time to do some healing around a relationship, maybe, or a past relationship or connection. The other thing here is that there's a pull to care for people, to nurture people, to support people. Now, from a business standpoint, this is great, right? We can use this energy to pour into our people, to pour into our community, to welcome them in and give them a big hug. Like, this is like, yes, like, let's do this. Where in Gemini, we were like, let's go teach them. Let's go tell them all the things, right? In Cancer, we want to support people. We can also do this in our relationships. I want to nurture my person. I want to care on my person. I want to like give all the love to my person. And if it's not done in a healthy way, you understand what I'm about to say, right? There could be some things there. So moodiness could happen here, people just getting moody. So if they haven't been getting the love and attention that they've been wanting, especially since we're in Leo season, there's some emotional energy that could be coming out. So emotional attacks, some definitely some ups and downs, moodiness. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm all over the place. So I'm just going to say that because it can feel very vulnerable during this time. Protect your energy, my friend. Just because someone is struggling doesn't mean that you have to take it all on. Even though you want to help and support, sometimes you need to put some boundaries around that because people can drain your energy, especially during this time. So emotional, practicing really healthy emotional boundaries, not just boundaries, but emotional boundaries, like how much energy I'm going to give to a person, and like, and not, so where I'm not depleting myself. Okay. Now, a couple other things with Venus as she's in her, how do I say? I don't want to say situation, but as she's in her transition here, she's got a couple things going on, and I wanted to point out just a few going on, but I want to point out one in particular, and that is here on the 20. Oops, I'm doing hour, Danny. So, and then let me share my screen. And this is the opposition that she has with Pluto that's coming in on the 22nd. So Pluto and Venus in opposition can get a little bit tense, and especially with her being in Cancer. So we've got tension is what tends to happen, especially in our close relationships. So suspicion, jealousy, possessiveness, right? So what I was kind of hitting at a little bit earlier can definitely come into play here because Pluto does have that darker underbelly where that kind of like lower vibrational energy can come in. So drama, and we've got our sun in Leo. Leo is known for being dramatic, right? Leo's dramatic when it is not being seen, heard, or understood. I want you to consider that. If you are not being seen, heard, or understood, you might be trying to fulfill a need here, fulfill that desire to be seen, heard, and understood. And you might be doing it in some of these ways, right? These manipulative ways, or this possessiveness, or this jealousy. It happens, my friend. It happens not in just intimate relationships, but in friendships, in families. This happens. I see it all the time. I'm going to advise my friends who are in the dating field, just be very cautious because there could be some potential things happening here. It's not the best time to really be dating. And it's just here till the 1st of September, just FYI. So just take this week off. Just have fun with your friends. You don't need to date anybody. Don't like put the app, delete the app for the week, or snooze it for the week, hide it or something, and come back maybe at the after the 1st of September. Some other things that could be coming into play here is power imbalances. So if there is a power imbalance in a relationship, and automatically we see power relationships happen, or imbalances in power relationships with like a manager employee type thing. So if you're in that type of a situation, you might see some of that, where that person who is in power can definitely cause some disruption for you potentially. more, a little bit more aggressiveness, maybe, or guilting, right? Guilt tripping that can tend to happen. But power balances can happen in a number of ways. Anybody that you have given your power to, you are now in a power imbalance, right? So I say that to say, um, if you have allowed somebody to frustrate you so much that weeks later you're still talking about it, it's really funny. Like there was this, I'm going to use Survivor again, sorry, but there was this episode that we watched recently with one of the girls. So if you watch Survivor, Abby is a character, let me just say. She had a situation with somebody, and um the person, like she this person had her bracelet basically in her bag, and not sure how the bracelet got into her bag. I think it was a simple misunderstanding, but Abby felt as if that this person had stole her bracelet. And so there was somebody that was with Abby when she found this out, and they were like, are you going to tell her? And she was like, I'm not going to tell her. She's like, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. Okay, great. But then Abby goes and talks to every single person on the tribe to let them know that she found her bracelet and that it was in this person's bag. And I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, and just kept saying that over and over and over and over. And so this girl like finally like started noticing like something's going on with Abby. Like, why is she telling everybody about like why is she saying that like I did this? So she went up to her, right? So what had happened was there became an imbalance in the relationship, right? They were all okay. And then when she found out that she thought that she had potentially stolen her bracelet, her power now was given to this girl, this other person. Abby's power is gone. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Danny, wouldn't Abby be the one that has the power? Yes and no, but there became an imbalance first off with Abby out here telling everybody what is happening. She, for one, is trying to get all of these people to think this person's bad. Definitely a power dynamic shift in the entire tribe. This is why I love Survivor, my friends. Power dynamic in the entire tribe to this one person. But this happens in our relationships. One of our friends, there's something that happens if we are not conscious beings and understanding that there's two sides to every story. In fact, three sides to every story, that person's perspective, and what actually did happen, which unless you were there, you won't know. And even then, you'll have your own perspective on it. So I say all of this to say, my friend, these power imbalances can happen if Abby, right? She gave her power away to this girl because she thought this thing had happened. And then this girl was like, hold up, I'm gonna bring this back because there's an imbalance here and this feels uncomfortable. And that's why she went and tried to have a conversation with Abby. But Abby was not having it. And that's a whole other story. But just to say that this happens, my friend, I don't want you to think of it as just like a manager employee type thing, or like a mother daughter father son, type of situation. This can happen in our circles, in our relationship circles, where there's this imbalance that happens. Okay, so I want you to just be aware of that. All right, my friend, I think that is all I am here to cover for this week's Sidereal Astrology Forecast. Remember, first off, if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you've enjoyed this episode and my rants about all these different things, then be sure to subscribe, and maybe even share it with somebody that might love this, or maybe there was something in here that I said that you're like, oh, so-and-so should hear this. Send that over to them, because sharing is caring, my friend. And also it helps the channel grow so more people who are like us and like this conversation can find us. The second thing is, be sure to download the August lunar journal. So every month I put out a lunar journal. I started this maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. I used to put guidebooks out, and I just streamlined that baby down to just the major things that are happening in the month. And so I talk about the new moon and the full moon. So our full moon in Capricorn we had a couple weeks ago, and the upcoming new moon in Leo. There's also some journal prompts in there to help you really establish what maybe intention you want to bring forward for this cycle. There's also weekly journal prompts and themes for you to explore, and some ritual and practice ideas for you as well. So go ahead and download that. It's absolutely free. It's something that I just love to put together because I love me a good journal prompt. All right, my friend, this wraps up this sidereal astrology forecast for the week of August 18th through the 24th. And until next time, remember to keep shining your unique light.